In today's W analysis, what Ralph Ellison told us with three characters. A black elitist, a white liberal, and a black nationalist all walk into a bar. Who do you trust more? That wasn't necessarily the setup, but in 1952, Ralph Ellison published one of the most important books in the 20th century. Invisible Man follows the story of a young black boy who grows up in a society hell-bent on shaping his identity the way others see fit. The main character is simply referred to as narrator, and at each turn there's someone or something trying to force upon him their ideas or practices on his life, ultimately forcing him to slowly rebel. Now, this book is 500-something pages. A deep dive would legitimately go on for a couple of hours, but in this segment, we're going to look at three men who the narrator encountered throughout the story and speak to what these encounters mean on a large scale. Those three men being, number one, Dr. Bledsoe. He was the president of the HBCU that the narrator had attended. Number two, Brother Jack. He was the leader of the Brotherhood, which was a political activist organization which the narrative would eventually join. And number three, Roz the Exhorter. He was a radical black nationalist leader who the narrator would encounter later in the story. Dr. Bledsoe was the envy of all black men growing up. In the book, the narrator states, Bledsoe was the example of everything I'd hoped to be. Influential with wealthy men all over the country, consulted in matters concerning the race, a leader of his people, the possessor of not one but two Cadillacs, a good salary, and a soft, good-looking and creamy complexed wife. What was more, while black and bald and everything white folks poke fun at, he had achieved power and authority, had, while black and wrinkle-headed, made himself of more importance in the world than most Southern white men. They could laugh at him, but they couldn't ignore him. With the credentials and respect that Dr. Bledsoe garnered, it was clear why the narrator had such a reverence and adoration for him, making the expulsion and betrayal from him later on sting even deeper. Dr. Bledsoe was the example of making a name for yourself in spite of the obstacles, using education and wit to climb the social ladder. And even though he was the president of an HBCU responsible for shaping the minds of younger generations, he was quick to remove the narrator from school following his mishandling of a white trustee. With Dr. Bledsoe, the narrator got his first example of, it be your own people. After being expelled, the narrator finds himself in New York City looking for work. This is where he encounters his next figure, Brother Jack. Now, Brother Jack is a white man, and he notices the narrator give a speech to the black citizens of Harlem after a controversial eviction of an elderly woman. The narrator's speech calms the crowd amid the hostility, and Brother Jack invites him to the Brotherhood, a political group looking to bring liberation to the black community and the black citizens of Harlem. And during the early meeting, Brother Jack asked the narrator outright, how would you like to be the new Booker T. Washington? Despite the organization funding the narrator's home and bank account, this relationship would ultimately sour as the narrator discovers the Brotherhood's true motives of international affairs while using himself and black people as the launching pad for their overall objective. Now, the narrator continues his work with the Brotherhood, but it will remain contentious. Things would come to a head when the narrator would encounter one of the more lively characters of the story, Roz the Exhorter. Roz the Exhorter was a black nationalist who you could find preaching liberation on Harlem street corners. He was a very animated personality and challenged both the narrator and the Brotherhood for being black in public, but ran by white people in private. Both Roz and the narrator pitied each other, but don't get it twisted, they did not like each other. Amid several clashes, Roz accused the narrator of pushing the white man's agenda with the black mask, and the narrator accused Roz of being a public example of negative stereotypes of black people. Roz the Exhorter would go on to become Roz the Destroyer, and during a riot would attempt to have the narrator lynched. This, of course, forces the narrator into hiding, where the story both begins and ends. Invisible Man would go on to be praised during its time of publication and even standing the test of time with accolades stacking up several decades down the road. It's by far one of the most comprehensive fictional works, speaking to the identity crisis of black Americans, and should be in every library of all those who concern themselves with social issues. Like if you enjoyed this segment, share if it can benefit others, subscribe for more book-related content. Till then, stay in the book and stay out the way.